Hello and welcome to Drive a Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. Before we get into today's movie, I want to talk to you about our Patreon over at patreon.com/Drive and Double Feature Podcast. You can help support the show just for $5 a month, and you get a lot of bonus content. But today, this Tuesday, we are talking about Freejack from 1992, a sci-fi classic, right? Everybody remembers Freejack.
Yeah.
This movie is a little, I don't even want to say little. This movie costs $30 million, but I don't think anybody remembers this movie except for my father, which is actually the reason I picked this movie, because we were talking about, so this movie has Mick Jagger in it. And we were talking about Mick Jagger in movies, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I really liked this movie back in the day called Freejack." And he described the plot of this movie. And I mean, just as a synopsis, it's about wealthy people in the future taking people that died in the past into the future and taking their bodies to live in. And I heard this plot synopsis. I also heard that it starred Emilio Estevez, Mick Jagger, Rene Russo, Anthony Hopkins, and Amanda Plummer. And I was like, holy crap, what is this movie?
Yeah. Very star-studded movie.
Yeah, so I was like, let's give it a shot. That sounds like a fun movie to try out. Did you know anything about Freejack?
No, I had zero clue. And I mean, these are all like people that they were like right at the cusp of like superstardom, or like just became, because like Anthony Hopkins just won the Oscar and this is like his big follow-up. And then
Yeah, wow.
and uh and then what was it? Emilio Estevez. I think this was the same year that Mighty Ducks came out as well.
Yes. Yep.
So that was like his big movie. So
Yeah, and then
then Rene Russo was in Lethal Weapon.
yeah,
So
was their first one the third one or the fourth one?
you got me.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but yeah, she's in that. And then Mick Jagger was in some band called the Rolling Stones, and then
Way
some,
back in the 40s or
yeah,
something.
some really old stuff. And then this movie kind of launched him up a little bit.
I
Uh,
love classical music.
yeah, I'm a little iffy on classical. Give me Elvis, I'll listen to his compositions, but that's about it. Uh, but Freejack is yeah, it's kind of an anomaly. It's a weird movie. I I will say it's one of those movies that we've covered on the show that I watch it and I know it's bad, but for me, I thought it was pretty entertaining throughout.
No, and for me, I liked it better than I did Looker.
Mm.
And I think it got a little too ambitious towards
Oh
the
yeah.
end.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
just like they're making this out to be a huge deal, and it's
Hmm.
very not much so. I mean, like I was pretty interested in the premise
Yeah.
where they were just taking people from the past and just they're like, oh well, what were they called now? You're a free jack now.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's an interesting concept, interesting, like, because it reminded me a little bit of Blade Runner, where there's a lot of like sci-fi terms and stuff like that. Because there's like a spirit board. That's where the rich people are kept after death, and that's when they get people from the past. They have people like Mick Jagger. I forget the exact term they have for them, but they have a term of they're a type of people that get these dead bodies or get these people from the past for the rich.
I
I
think they're
think
called jackers.
Jackers, I believe so. Yes, but I think this movie excels with concept. It was a movie that was sold on concept, but I don't think the movie could ever live up to the concept.
I, it was, yeah. The
Yeah,
execution was just a little shaky towards the end for me.
I totally agree. We'll get into that. Oh, I do want to say this movie was directed by New Zealand director Jeff Murphy, who would later go on to make Under Siege 2, Young Guns 2, and actually
Also with Emilio Estevez.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, with Emilio Estevez. But the movie I know him for actually is The Quiet Earth, which I watched on a whim not long ago from New Zealand. It's a Last Man on Earth movie. It's one I want to talk about in the show. Really,
Isn't
really
that
good movie.
Oh, I'm thinking of a different Mick Jagger movie. There's another Mick. Isn't there another Mick Jagger movie where it's called
Um,
something like that?
I'm not sure. Yeah, this one didn't have Mick Jagger though.
Or is it or am I thinking of like a David Bowie movie or something?
Oh, the man who fell to earth.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, the David Bowie movie. Yes, yeah, no. Kind of similar, right? We got rock star. Mick Jagger was in a he kind of had a career as a film actor. I won't say I've seen many of his movies.
I guess his big one would probably be like Performance, maybe.
That's right, Performance. Yeah, where he plays like two different people in that movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He performs as two different people. But
Now
get
that it
it?
makes sense.
Get it? Yeah, now it makes sense. Um, so the way this movie starts, it like intercuts between the past and the future really interestingly. Emilio Estevez is a race car driver, so he's already pretty awesome, and he's married to Renee Russo. And we get this build up to his like actual race. And one of the weirdest scenes in this movie, already right off the bat, is whenever he starts to walk away and he's like, I need you to nibble on my ear for good luck. And she's obviously like, huh? No, why would I do why?
She
That's weird.
she looks almost uncomfortable at this request because
Mhm.
she even says like there might be people watching. Like, what do you mean? He's like, come on, just do it.
And she
And
does it
nibbles his ear just a little bit.
in public, in front of everybody. Emilio Estevez ends up crashing, and Mick Jagger sends him to the future as soon as he's about to crash. I like that this gets explained later because he does meet his like manager, and the manager's like, "They found no body. We we couldn't claim insurance on this or anything."
Wouldn't that be weird though? So I mean, I mean, I guess if you saw somebody die in an
Mhm.
explosion, and then you're like, okay, but there's just no body, like no remnants of a body at all. Like, could they even claim that somebody is dead?
I don't know. I mean, somebody's there and then they're not. That's so weird. But they saw him in the car,
They
right?
saw him in the car, but there was no
No.
body.
In real life, there would be no scientific explanation for this. This would be the weirdest, like, but Rene Russo is just like, okay, all right, I'm moving on from here.
That's right.
Yeah. No, thank God I got that man out of my life. He asks me to perform ear nibbling in public in front of
She's gonna go
everybody.
nibble someone else's ear.
But yeah, I mean, so the main movie is set in 2009, post-apocalyptic 2009. It's kind of weird. Other than the spirit board and like the cars and stuff, this movie doesn't scream too futuristic to me.
Well, I think the biggest problem for me, it's like they want this movie to be 17 years in the future, but
Yeah.
it's so funny. It's like, but everyone still uses like DOS computers and
Yeah.
like all these like super analog stuff. And it's just like, at least with Looker, I was like, okay, they predicted a lot of stuff in the future that was going to
Yeah.
happen. But like this one, it's just like, nah, this stuff we have right now, it's not going to get any better than that. It's like, this is the technology. We're at a roadblock here.
Yeah, we live in the future currently, and it's gonna stay this way.
Yeah, what else could you improve?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's definitely what I feel like happens here. Maybe they make video calls, but they've been doing video calls in movies since 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Right.
It's nothing too crazy. But what happens is they get Emilio Estevez and they try to kill him. So well, sorry, spoilers. That's a spoiler for the end of the movie. The rich guy is going to take over the body, but they do such a piss poor job, and Emilio Estevez like escapes so easily from this.
Well, they have him like in a mobile, I guess, ambulance type of thing, and
Yeah.
they're trying to perform a procedure on him where they
Hmm.
like basically kill him with like like with IVs and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and he pulls out like this weird shotgun or whatever.
Hmm.
And but yeah, they take like a wrong turn and it kind of shakes the ambulance around, and then it's like, oh, I'm free now.
Yeah, I'm a free Jack now. because that's what he ends up being. That's what they call it, a free jack, because I just
His name
remember.
is Jack in the movie too.
No, it's not. Well, but
He's
wouldn't
free.
that
He's
be
like, I'm
awesome?
free.
Jack. Jack is free, you know. No, his name is Alex. Okay, come on. Remember, you gotta remember these things, even though I
The
don't remember characters'
Well,
names. But
yeah, the iconic character Alex.
yeah, Alex. What is his last name?
Alex Wright.
Yeah, I believe so. Alex Wright. Yes. But
No, I made that up.
I know. Oh, I know. It's it's Alex Furlong. Alex Furlong.
Gotcha.
Yes. But yeah, so now it becomes one of those movies where he's escaped and he's on the run. It's an on the run type movie. Mick Jagger is on his tail. Mac Jagger, like McDonald's. But Mick Jagger is on his tail, and Mick Jagger is hamming it up. He is having a blast in this one.
Yeah, he's probably the most fun character in this. And
I agree.
you know, I do like Emilio Estevez, and like he does some comedic roles, like I said, like
Yeah.
Mighty Ducks and things where I do enjoy him. This one I thought he was pretty wooden in this
I
movie.
I agree. I don't think it was the right role for him. I don't think it fits. It works. I get what they were trying to do because, Emilio Estevez, race car driver, I guess that's cool. But he just seems kind of out of his depth because I don't think he's ever really done a movie like this before.
Well, there's Repo Man or whatever,
That's
which is
true. That's true.
but this one I don't know, like I feel like he gets to this world, and after he kind of is there for a little bit, he's a little confused at first, but then he's just kind of like okay with like everything that happens afterwards.
Yeah.
uh, and I don't ever feel like because when you have these type of world building movies,
Hmm.
these type of you have a character that doesn't know anything, so they usually have to be explained for everything.
Yes.
And I feel like in the first half we kind of, it was kind of explained, but I don't really feel like he's like, oh yeah, well this is I know everything now, like I'm an expert at this stuff.
Yeah, there was one point in the movie where I was like, "Okay, are you serious?" Where where his past wife steals like a tank, and they're both riding in it together, and they call the main rich guy. Oh, actually, I forgot one other person. Jonathan Banks is in this
Oh
movie.
yeah.
A red light pops up on the tank, and Emilio Estevez goes, "What is that?" And then she goes, "I don't know." And he goes, "That's a tracker. They're tracking us." Like, are you serious? And that's what it
he
was.
he knows, trust me.
Yeah, I don't understand. I remember just sitting there and being like, "What? That's a logical leap, I guess." But all right.
Well, I'm
Um,
like, did they even really have trackers like in the 90s where you're like, oh yeah, I know what a tracker. I mean,
I,
like now, I mean, they pretty much track everything,
yes, yeah,
but back then, would you just assume that you're like, oh yeah, that's a tracker?
yeah. No, I don't think so. Um, yeah, there was weird stuff like that. He knows how to drive these very futuristic cars that look like Hot Wheels. They look so silly in this.
That's that's because he's a driver.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. A driver can drive anything. Oh,
He,
it's just like,
I drive.
oh, I drive. He does. I did write in my notes that he talks very little in this movie at first. At first, he's kind of a quiet character, but then he doesn't shut his mouth, so it didn't stay that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to explain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wish my hands are dirty. Sorry. I can't jack. Sorry. Uh, but there's some silly scenes because the whole goal for him is to go find his past wife to kind of like be like, hey, can we figure this out? Um, and I love that she doesn't think he's real at first because she thinks that somebody took over his body, and she just calls the cops like instantly on him.
Well, yeah, he like you said though before that he does meet his friend,
That's right.
and
Yep.
and his friend is just like, oh yeah, like you can't. I thought you'd be alive, but who knew? And
Yeah.
I forget what he's. Oh, I remember it was. They said like, well, why don't they just take like? There's plenty of people outside. Like, why don't they just take one of them? He's like, it's like, oh yeah, they're either like drug addicts or their bodies are just riddled by pollution.
Yeah. You know, it is it's post-apocalyptic. Everybody's gross. I mean, he runs into a homeless guy at one point and he's eating what do they call it?
Uh,
Water rat or something?
oh, River Rat.
River rat. That's right. Yeah.
That scene was such a weird scene.
So out of place. So
Like
weird.
he jumps because to out he's being chased by Mick Jagger. So the only way and he gets away by jumping off of a bridge into the water below.
Yeah.
And then he gets out of the river and he's soaking wet, like gasping for air. And this homeless guy is just staring at him and just like he's like eating. And the homeless guy's like, "Oh yeah, you look like you're in bad shape. Like, here, you want some? It's River Rat." And he's just like, "Ugh, no." And then the homeless guy just goes into like a really long explanation about how he prepares River Rat to eat.
Yeah. This is the point of the movie. I seriously like moved my mouse while watching it. I was like, how much longer is this movie? I think there
Yeah.
was 50 minutes left. I was like, what? This is so weird. Like just right in dead center of the movie. Because the movie honestly doesn't have a crazy amount of fat to it. It's not one of those movies where kind of weird things happen. I will say maybe the chase scenes are a little long because there is a lot of scenes where it's him just running away. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But again, it's just like because they don't have any weird scenes like this, and it's just like that one scene just kind of sticks out really
Yeah.
far. So I didn't really understand that. Like, what I mean, it was kind of funny because I was just like, wait, why is this going on? But
Yeah, I think it's like one of those weird things that makes you like it's like a movie that stands out because it just has one weird thing like that. This movie egregiously uses green screen. I'll bring that up. There's a scene where Emilio Estevez is in an elevator and it's a green screen. I don't know if you noticed this, and it just looked horrible to me. It looked rough.
there's a lot of green screen where they're like in a futuristic type of portal type of thing. There's a lot of stuff like that. Oh, I do want to talk about one scene that happened before, like after he meets his friend and they go to the diner. It's such a crazy, like Emilio Estevez, like I said, he's this new guy in this new world, but he does have a gun in his hand, and then he's staring at this old guy, and this old guy is like, "Stop staring at me," and the old guy pulls out a gun, and then Emilio Estevez like, "Hey, I got a gun too," like type of thing, and
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you staring at this old man anyway? Why is he being so unnecessarily antagonistic?
I was
Like,
gonna say that he's
yeah,
so antagonistic. He's so cocky for somebody who's been transported to somewhere completely foreign to him, and like he's just so confident with his skills and everything. And the thing is he has the ability to back it up because he basically wins everything in this movie.
yeah.
Oh, we did bring up the cast, and I did bring up Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins is barely in this movie, by the way. It is like a Silence of the Lambs situation. In the end, he's in it more, but in the beginning, he is barely a presence.
I was gonna say I don't think Anthony Hopkins is in the same room as any of these other actors
I don't
ever.
think so. I think they got him in a green screen because part of it is when you see him before the end, he's on phone calls, he's on phone conferences. And at the end of the movie, come to find out he's living in a VR universe because he's in the spirit board. He's the one who's died looking for a new body. And and that's all shot on green screen. And like you said, I believe he's just green screened in with everyone else.
I mean, the closest he comes to being on the same screen is that he's a hologram. But again,
Yeah.
it was probably filmed at a studio somewhere where he just was like came in on whenever he had
Yeah.
time or whatever.
After Silence of the Lambs, he's like, all right, I'm doing this one. I'm gonna get my paycheck.
He probably.
Yeah.
He probably hadn't won the Oscar at that point.
No,
Maybe.
probably not. It was probably filmed before his Oscar. But even then, he still was in some high profile movies, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, he
Yeah.
was.
Um, but yeah, I mean, he would later go on to say that he regrets doing this movie. He said it was a terrible film. Um, and I will say
Wow.
I'll at least say like that's pretty much the consensus of this movie back in the day. A lot of people hated it. It did only make 37 million on a 30 million budget, so it was a pretty 37 million is a good amount of money to make, but not when it's 30 million to cost for cost for it.
Right. I mean, it would have been good if it was 37 million opening weekend back then, but
Yes, yeah. Where Shazam makes that much money in a week and everyone's flipping out.
I know.
Uh,
But yeah, you know, I kind of get it. I mean, it's not. It's an all right movie. I mean,
yeah.
it's not. It's something that, like I said, I think what happens is like I was kind of getting interested in the world building a little bit. I was
Hmm.
interested in the locations, but then it was just like these towards the end. It's just like these really just drawn out scenes where they're just
Yeah.
like going into over explanation, or they're going into like trying to figure out like just trying to figure some of this stuff out. It's not it's not my cup of tea, and it was very much like I was by the end of it, I was just kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
let's move along here, type of thing.
Yeah, because when I think about like really great sci-fi movies, especially from this era, you think of like Total Recall, RoboCop. There was one other I was thinking of. Oh, well, Blade Runner. We mentioned that before. It doesn't really have to explain its universe to you. You watch it and you understand it. It doesn't sit there and go, "This is what you need to do," and this and this. Here, it was really dead set on telling you how this whole system worked, what the VR spirit board was, and it's just like, this is easily 20 extra minutes that didn't need to be here. I get it. I get what you're trying to do. You don't have to explain how this really works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So not really. I think they could have done something a little more streamlined, maybe, but
I agree. I agree. But I still found it entertaining. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I have my sci-fi
no.
bias. I like kind of weird movies like this for
Oh,
forgotten in the past.
oh yeah. I mean, when I started, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely a Nathan movie.
Yeah, but it definitely does become a little bit of a bore by the end. So
Just a little, but like I
yeah.
said, I did like it better than Looker, which I found completely dull like a lot of
Hmm.
times. So this one, it could have been a little better, but if I were to give this anything, I would say it's a light recommend. It
Yeah.
it's completely inoffensive. It's got some halfway decent parts in there. I don't think it's god awful like Anthony
No.
Hopkins thinks, but it's uh it's not like a top tier sci-fi.
No, it's definitely not one of the better ones we've seen on the show, but yeah, you know what, I'll give it a recommend. I think there's enough interesting things here. I think it's one of those movies that's interesting to look back on and be like, oh wow, we made this in '92. We got this kind of cast for this movie, and back then, where this movie would be a straight to DVD or straight to streaming movie now.
Mm-hmm.
Even though straight to streaming doesn't mean anything anymore. They make crazy
Now
movies
that
now.
Yeah, I'm about to say straight to streaming is just they released it now.
Yeah, sorry. Straight to Crackle. It's a straight to Crackle movie. But yeah, I think that wraps it up. I think we covered all the bases with Freejack, right? All right, I think that wraps it up this week for Freejack. What are we going to be covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, usually on our podcast, some holds are barred, but on Thursday, no holds are going to be barred.
No way. No way. Finally, we can do it. We can.
No, no,
Okay.
yeah, we can do some holds that we barred.
All right, I'm going to drop all holds for this next one, okay?
All right. Well, hold on to your hats because we are talking about no holds barred, which is not free or streaming anywhere. Period. You can't buy it on streaming. So if you want it, you're gonna have to buy the official release, which is on Blu-ray.
Yep. Well, I'm excited to go out and purchase that movie for my own personal enjoyment. But if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check us out on Twitter at DIDFpod. You can also check out our Patreon, and you can email us at drive-in-double-feature podcast at gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. But Until next time.
Jacking in next time.